Well, here's something well, it's no surprise, but I kind of wish it wasn't so. But it looks like this is pretty close to absolute confirmation that, yes, Ben Affleck will no longer be portraying Batman in any form. The Matt Reeves movie, it had long been said, was going to feature a younger Batman. And the rumor going forward was that perhaps Ben Affleck would do a bookend bit or scenes in it, and that this would refer to that character's past and the 20-year career that was mentioned when he's introduced in Batman versus Superman. And so that would all fit, and that would probably be really cool. And then perhaps that would be a means by which to hand off a new Batman trilogy where it would feature this new actor. And other films that might have a Batman in contemporary form would be Affleck, and there'd be this separation there, but still contained within, the same universe and all that. Well, that's not the case. The Deadline put out this story about it, and then Ben Affleck responds to it on Twitter to say, hey, excited for the Batman in summer 2021 and to see Matt Reeves' vision come to life. And then there it is in the title, Ben passes the torch to next generation of Bruce Wayne. So he's not saying, hey, wait a minute, this isn't true, or anything like that, or not respond at all. So that's pretty close to, yeah, I'm out. I'm not a part of this anymore. So there you go. It's sad for me because, look, out of all the cinematic performances of Batman, Ben Affleck was the best of the bunch. Sorry, he just was. And that scene with him rushing to save Martha in Batman versus Superman is the absolute best action scene of Batman on film ever. Too bad the film wasn't all that great overall, but I wanted to see him as Batman in some movie. And, of course, there's rumors that his script was actually spectacular, and all that, but, that's friends of his and people who read it and all that. So maybe not. But, boy, I just feel cheated. Once again with this whole endeavor with the DC characters. And so that leaves Batman without an actor for a while. I guess they're going through them. They probably already have one in mind and finagling the deal, and we'll sign him up, and we'll probably hear about that soon as to who's been cast as the new Batman. But since Aquaman came along and became this monster hit, that changed the course since the disaster of Justice League. So leading up to that, it was feared that, well, that's it for any kind of DC universe that can compete with Marvel and give us that vision of DC Comics, because within the comic books, that's the world they all live in as far as the superheroes go. They're in the same world, and that's something we hadn't seen depicted until Batman versus Superman. So to just judge it by that one movie, which it had been up to this point, is just unfair. Now, going forward, the approach appears, especially from Toby Emmerich's comments on the matter, was that they're not focusing on a shared universe, and we're not going to try to copy Marvel. Well, with all due respect, they never did. They tried to copy Marvel ass backwards, where the universe is established immediately, and then they go to individual films. Well, the problem with Batman versus Superman is there's not the history behind it that the Marvel films had when they got to that point. When they get to Avengers, you've had these other movies. So they tried to do in one movie what Marvel did in 5 years. And I don't care who they hired to do it, it was impossible to achieve that. So the movie was kind of doomed from the start. Plus, there's plenty of other stories, about the interference. And Zack Snyder was originally to do a Superman trilogy, and that's it. No shared universe or any of that. And then they changed it after the fact because they wanted to go after this Marvel template and that sort of thing. They wanted the Marvel success. They wanted that audience and all that sort of thing. And that's all understandable. But to mystify the concept of a shared universe to where it's something that's so elusive that it's almost magical, and Marvel just was in the right time at the right time and right place, and that's it. It can't never be done again, you know. And comparisons to the Dark Universe failure, which was dead on arrival twice. It doesn't compare. Wonder Woman, of course, was a success, but now Aquaman has surpassed her as far as the most popular films of this franchise. But there again, her movie comes out in the midst of all the cries of outrage at the Batman versus Superman, and then Suicide Squad, which didn't help at all. The movies were very profitable, but everyone came out like, damn, I don't want to see that again. And so that was the problem. And by the time Justice League came with all the problems, again, more interference, and then the terrible situation with Zack and his daughter and all that. And then Joss Whedon coming in. And if Ethan Van Sciver's to be believed, that he asked for another $300 million on top of the $300 million that already spent, good God Almighty, what the hell was going on there? So that Frankenstein thing they put together, which actually... it's not a good movie, but it's not awful. It's not deserving of the hatred it got, but nevertheless, it failed, and then that was the end of it. Well, Aquaman saves the day, and so the possibility for a DC universe going forward is there, but they're just not in the workings of putting it together and having a point to reach. Now, for the Marvel universe, it begins with Iron Man, of course. But Iron Man is its own movie. That's Iron Man's story. It's just at the tail end, there's Nick Fury, and now you see what this is about. And then the Incredible Hulk, which goes a little further with the super soldier being the origin of the Hulk's, the Banner becoming the Hulk. So yeah, it's Captain America references there and all that, but that's about it. That's the Hulk's movie, and that's it. It moves on with another little teaser, and there's Tony Stark and all that. Hey, it's all the same world. And that's it. That's not asking a whole lot. You could have had those teasers directed by someone entirely different, so the director can have their own story if they're going to be that, possessive about it. And you move on, and you can still have a director-driven movie. Now, Marvel quickly established a template, and you can see the comedic mode and templates of their movie was always present, and that sort of thing. But it's not impossible to continue a shared universe story within movies that, for the most part, aren't connected. So Wonder Woman, this comes out of, I was reading articles on Cosmic Book News, which is basically, I guess, Matt McCloyne. I don't know. It's his name on the articles. And he keeps putting these headlines where the DCEU is dead. And then in the article is, well, as we know it. So he has to admit that even he has to have some sort of reservation on this in case they change their mind down the road, which they could, but they're looking to see what this means. And was Aquaman some kind of fluke, or can this continue? And we'll see how Shazam performs going forward. And we'll hope that he'll work. But McCloyne kept even talked of Wonder Woman in one of these articles as not being connected. Of course it was. It was bookend with Bruce Wayne in the photograph and all that. Aquaman, he says, oh, it's a standalone movie and all that. It's still connected, though. It is its own movie. That's Aquaman's story. But Mara tells, you forget the conversation. I don't know if you were looking at your phone or blinked and you missed it, but yes, Mara says, hey, you defeated Steppenwolf. Was that some other Steppenwolf, or was he talking about the band? No, this follows the story of Justice League. Now, in Momoa's thoughts and mine on this, he was saying, yeah, I'm following the Snyder version of it, which is all very sad that we never got to see it. And I'm thinking we never will. I know there's enough there. I know that the photography was all completed. We've had plenty of people discuss that, most notably the storyboard artist and what have you. But whether or not you want to put the money in to finish the special effects and whatnot, probably not. And Zack Snyder recently announced that he's moving on with a movie, The Army of the Dead, which brings him back full circle to where his motion picture career began with Dawn of the Dead, which in my opinion is the absolute best zombie movie ever. And so look forward to that. It'll be on Netflix. And of course, he kind of confirmed what the problems were with the interference, because he said, hey, I'm going to be free to do what I want. It sure is nice to be able to do so. Yeah, you know what that's about. So I don't think Snyder Cut will. And plus, there's some amount of rumors that they might use the footage for a Cyborg movie if that comes to fruition. And they might feel desirous of doing that because now it's looking like there's still life in these characters. So Shazam has got to perform well, yes, to keep this ball rolling. But there again, the idea that these are all now standalone movies like they used to be in the 90s and the 80s with Superman and in the 90s with Batman and all that. No. These clearly exist in the same world. And Shazam, even with this photoshopped image, I hear that I don't know who did the body here. The legs aren't quite. I think that's Superman's legs photoshopped and recolored to fit with this image that's been around of Shazam. But the cup he's holding is from the movie posters and whatnot. And if you study that cup and go look at the movie posters and promo images, what symbol is on that cup? Yes, it's Wonder Woman's symbol. So he's in the same world with her. There's the teaser. Even now, the latest teasers they've put out shows footage and images of from Man of Steel movie with the Kryptonian invasion, and of course the Batarang is there, and it seems pretty integral to the storyline in that Freddie Freeman, his buddy that he's rooming with there with the foster parents, is a big superhero nerd, and so Billy Batson isn't, and so he kind of explains to him what the superhero stuff is like and what it's about. So that sounds pretty integral to the plot of the story of Shazam exploring his powers when he gets them. So there was reshoots and talks of that and that sort of thing. Oh, would they cut that out? Maybe they would have. Maybe they reshot a version where there's not a lot of mention of that. But thanks to Aquaman, pretty much intact, there wasn't time to change it around too much. And maybe they did, but there's still the mention of Steppenwolf in it. So Aquaman comes along, and he's a massive hit, $1 billion and all that. So, yeah, go ahead and keep Captain Marvel as is. But meanwhile, the other rumor of who's being booted out was Henry Cavill as Superman. But now it's starting to sound like that, no, they may have reached some sort of agreement. There's still no mention whatsoever of a Man of Steel 2, which really irks me to no end. I think that's nuts, and they really need to get to work on that. But I'm hoping against hope that maybe they were able to shoot the cameo for Shazam and that he might actually have a scene in it. Probably wouldn't be much at this point, but there you go. And hopefully they'll weave him in some other stories, and eventually you're going to have to come to a movie that brings it together. The other movies, they're pretty much on their own. It's just little teases here and there. Stop mystifying the shared universe like it's so impossible and that, it overlaps with directors. You just don't do what you did to Zack Snyder, where at the 11th hour you're telling him to change his entire course of his movie. You signed him up for a Superman trilogy, and all of a sudden, we need Batman, and I want it to be a shared universe, and blah, 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 and make it like Marvel, and and then, wait a minute, we didn't like that version. Could you do it around again? And that kind of crap is what brought it down. So going forward, you can pretty much, and to say that we're not going to do it like Marvel, that's kind of what Marvel did. They had these individual movies, they put their little teasers in it, and they put their little, Easter eggs here and there, and that's it. And then the Avengers that's a complete shared universe movie with everybody coming together and all that sort of thing. So the Avengers was always that. But that took some time to do it. And even after Infinity War, they admitted they really didn't quite know where they were going with Thanos. They knew they would come to him eventually, but they were making it up as they went along. Ultimately, borrowing from the comic books and everything, they had a template there for where to go. But it wasn't complete. And so it's not that big of a deal. So to say that this is over and this is it, and then in the article, as you know it, such kind of save grace there, but no. I think Aquaman was a huge game changer. And then really, if Shazam pulls it off, well, then here we go. We're back online. Not the way it was supposed to go with Snyder and all that, but so what? There will be at some point, I guess, a Justice League movie or some kind of movie that crosses over with one another. Maybe not all of them at once. Maybe just one or two, that sort of thing. Superman and Batman could team up in a World Finest movie, something like that. But it will be someone else. Probably Cavill, maybe, but not Affleck, which is sad. But there you go. So there you go. The DCEU, I'm saying, is not dead. I mean, the DCEU was never really the official title anyway, but I don't think it's dead. Far from it. It's just different. And I don't know about Flash. I'm thinking that'll have to go through a revamp and probably a new actor and all that. But anyway, again, the bigger lesson is to stop mystifying the concept of a shared universe. The other successful shared universe besides Marvel was the Conjuring universe, which was these horror movies, of course, and it started with one and another. They're connected. They live in the same universe, but none of those are dependent on the other. The Nun was introduced in the Conjuring movies, and then Annabelle was introduced in them, even though they weren't really central players in the movies they were introduced in. Later on, they get their own movie, and that's it. But it's not like, oh, the Conjuring Avengers or whatever. It's kind of built to that. But it's just this series and this world that it's created, and there you go. And it's a successful horror franchise. So the same could be true for DC. And making a big deal about it. We're not going to do it the way Marvel did it. Or how else are you going to do it? There's not so many. You try to do it backwards, where the connection is done first, and then the individual movies come. You learn the hard way, I guess. And so that's pretty much how I see what's happening here. Because it's kind of hard to not want to try to chase that achievement that Marvel did with that massive success with Infinity War. And boy, they've got to be thinking, gee, I'd love to get to something like that. So build this up slowly, get people introduced in your characters, get them to love them and want to see more of them, and then pay off with a giant movie. And then you got to reboot it again with new actors because these actors are going to want to move on. They're going to get older, all that sort of thing. And they're going to get too expensive. But there you go. Don't meddle and interfere at the 11th hour, which is always the lesson for what happened with Snyder. And don't constantly mystify Marvel's achievements with the shared universe. The concept of the shared universe doesn't have to be that complicated. It doesn't. Thank you for watching and listening. Say, while you're here, why not like and subscribe? And check out the link description below. That'll take you to my many stores that have plenty of goodies for you.